Any chance to keep India in check is a chance global powers don't like to miss anymore. But Pakistan makes it very hard for such powers to remain ignorant or act naive. Pakistan's motor-mouthed politicians, army officers are enough to remind the world of its terror designs. Whether it's the army chief making divisive and hateful comments against Hindus or their officials showing up for terrorists' funerals. Pakistan is now trying to turn the heat on waters. They're completely spooked by the abeyance of the Indus Waters Treaty from India and are threatening India on a daily basis. It pushes its words harder than its missiles and drones. But what is shocking, even for this terror country this time, is the language, an exact mirror of global designated terrorists that it harbors in its borders. Listen in first up to how the Pakistani military spokesperson has echoed the exact words of Hafiz Saeed.
तुम हमारा पानी बंद कर दोगे, हम तुम्हारा सांस बंद कर देंगे।
अगर तू पानी बंद करेगा, इंशाअल्लाह हम तेरी सांस बंद करेंगे, इन दरियाओं में फिर खून बहेगा।
In fact, top intel sources have informed CNN News 18 about how the Pakistani army is actually paving way for radicalism to take over the country. There is no difference now between Pakistani army and the mullahs who preach terror. We are learning that Pak Army Chief Asim Munir has recently been reading Quranic verses at meetings. In fact, he's been delivering sermons at places that are really meant for Maulvis. It is during these sermons that remarks against Indian forces and government are being made. Pakistani army is leading the charge to transform state-backed terrorism into a religious obligation for soldiers and radicals. And this is a great tool to motivate even the common awam on the basis of qawm. This is not all. Even soldiers in the Pakistani army are indoctrinated to view Kashmir as a jihadi cause. Many in Kashmir have accepted this in the past. Sources have also informed radical Maulvis were hired to teach jihad to Pakistani army recruits. Like I said, this isn't really a new trend. Pakistan has resorted to threats and even their officials have resorted to threats in the past. This is a Pakistani military official also speaking the language of goons, thugs, if not outright terrorists. Remember, this video is just less than a month ago, a peaceful protest by members of the Indian diaspora outside the Pakistan High Commission in London against the terror attack in Pahalgam. That turned into a flashpoint between the senior Pakistani army officer, Colonel Taimur Rahat, making a threatening throat-slit gesture towards the demonstrators, towards ordinary civilians in UK. So we know the level that can be expected by this country's military. Has the true face of Pakistan been exposed yet again then? And will the likes of global powers, the US, Donald Trump, etc. continue to equate India and Pakistan after listening to all of this? That's the big debate coming up.
We are different from the Hindus in every possible aspect of life. Our religion is different, our customs are different, our traditions are different, our thoughts are different, our ambitions are different. That was the foundation of the two-nation theory that was laid there.
तुम हमारा पानी बंद कर दोगे, हम तुम्हारा सांस बंद कर देंगे।
Let's go across to our guest joining us, Prabhu Dayal, former diplomat and Consul General to Karachi, Lieutenant General Gautam Murthy, founder, CASA, Current and Strategic Affairs Forum and Defence Expert, Captain Alok Bansal, Director of India Foundation, and Group Captain MJ Vinod, former fighter pilot of the Indian Air Force, all joining us. MJ Vinod, why don't I begin with you? I mean, India has been a victim of Pak-sponsored terror for like 70 plus years. Even at our worst, even after Pahalgam, even after Pulwama, nobody used this language against Pakistan. and their Pakistani army official, spokesperson, is echoing the same words, exact same words of Hafiz Saeed. We know where their inspiration comes from.
Shivani, maybe it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be too much if I say the existence. There's a beautiful French word for it, raison d'être.
Yes.
Existence, reason for existence of Pakistani army or armed forces is only India hate at the bottom and Kashmir on the apex. There is no other way they can, whatever billions that they get, they can justify expending in the name of shielding themselves from India. India has never in its thousands of years of existence, it never had expeditionary design that these people cannot understand. In our constitution, it is not there. In many constitutions, it is there. Look at China. In their constitution, it is there. In their mindset, it is there. In their military doctrine, it is there. We don't have such design. In fact, we could have kept Bangladesh to ourselves. We didn't. We could have kept Lahore to ourselves. We didn't. We respected the international boundary, handed over Lahore or the outskirts, up to outskirts of Lahore when we went. But what is, Shivani, I would use this opportunity to tell all the so-called influencers or budding influencers and wannabe influencers who are, eyeing to get more followers, etc. It's all good. The moment you hear Pakistan or Bangladesh, these two words, you should stay away from them. I'll tell you one more thing, Shivani. Our counterintelligence, thankfully, and thank God for it, is so strong that I'm taking an example, okay? If Jyoti Malhotra gave out one information in the morning, I can tell you with guarantee, Shivani, that by evening we know who Jyoti Malhotra is and what information she gave. Only thing is, it is our time and place of choosing when we pick up these people. They should never have any doubt that the counterintelligence of India does not know what these people are doing, firstly.
Right.
Secondly,
I'll come back to that issue in just a bit. I want to bring in Lieutenant General Gautam Murthy on this as well. In India, rightfully so, because we are a country that has its head firmly on its shoulders. Even at our worst, even now, we never wish ill of Pakistani people, right? We don't condone wishing ill of Pakistani people. We only wish that Pakistani people will take control of the destiny of this country that was formed out of cutting India and its motherland. But in any case, at least course correct now. But the hate that Pakistani army seems to have, and I am not going to shy away from saying this is inspired from religion. This is inspired from religious indoctrination and radicalism, because the mullahs that run the Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed, they say these things.
You're quite right. You see, it is not just religion, but it is radicalism which is the
I'm just interrupting you for just a brief second, sir. My apologies. We have some important breaking news that is also coming in. This is defense sources telling CNN News 18 that several Indian women pilots were part of Operation Sindoor. 42 military personnel of Pakistan have been killed in these Indian strikes overall, and India has lost 7. So the Indian military is giving the figures for the very first time. Earlier, there was a figure of 5 that had been announced by the DGMOs. More than 170 terrorists have been killed in the May 7 strike, which was the original Operation Sindoor. The maximum damage was caused in Bahawalpur, which is the base of Hafiz Saeed and others. India's BrahMos did severe damage on the May 9th, 10th strikes on air bases. Several of them were badly damaged. All the targets were hit as planned. There was spectacular precision as far as the Indian military action was concerned. Pakistan was humiliated and will try to do something because of that humiliation. So the Indian forces are on alert for any action. Let me go across to my colleague Aman, who's also joining us with more on this. Very important updates coming in from the defense sources, Aman.
Yes, Shivani, this is what is being told to us by top defense sources, that over 200 casualties have been inflicted on the Pakistan side as part of Operation Sindoor. What we are being told, that over 170 terrorists were killed in the May 7th strike by India on the 9 terror headquarters in Pakistan, and the severest of the strikes was carried out at Bahawalpur, which is the headquarters of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, where a number of family members and number of terrorists of the Jaish-e-Mohammed of Maulana Masood Azhar's family were killed, and several Indian women Air Force pilots were also a part of Operation Sindoor. This is also details, Shivani, which are coming out for the first time, that several Indian Air Force pilots, women Air Force pilots, were a part of Operation Sindoor in this May 7th strike, which was carried out against the terrorist headquarters in Pakistan. Then the second big piece of information is that on the night of May 9th and May 10th, the Indian strike on multiple Pakistani air bases inflicted serious damage, including 42 military personnel of Pakistan being the casualties in India's May 9, May 10 morning strikes on 8 to 9 Pakistani air bases. These were strikes carried out by BrahMos missiles with surgical precision, and heavy damage was inflicted on these Pakistani air bases. This is also a second big piece of information. The third big piece of information is that the Operation Sindoor is only paused. It has not stopped, because we think, an Indian government establishment has this assessment, that Pakistan was very badly humiliated during Operation Sindoor. The elevation of Asim Munir as a field marshal is only a face-saving exercise. India anticipates Pakistan may try to do something, and that is why forces have been told to be on complete alert,
right,
so that no misadventure from Pakistan is entertained. Also, the other point, that India's military success, Shivani, is also a consequence of several decisions taken after Doklam. So, the lessons have been learned. All of this has been incorporated during Operation Sindoor, and it's a spectacular success. But India remains on alert, and over 200 casualties inflicted on the Pakistan side. This big number coming to light for the first time, Shivani.
Yes, 42 military personnel of Pakistan killed. Last time, this statement of the DGMOs, when they did their first press conference, went viral. When I think it was Air Marshal A.K. Bharti who said, it's not our job to count the body bags, but the body bags have been counted. 42 military personnel of Pakistan have been declared as killed in these Indian strikes, and there are a lot of funerals and other processions going on in Pakistan. They're trying their level best to hide this. There have been 7 casualties on the Indian side. But I also want to focus on the other aspects of this update that we're getting, Aman, that Pakistan will try to do something that is in their nature. So India's defense apparatus is on alert. Forces have been told to be prepared, and Operation Sindoor is ongoing. India's military success is a consequence of several decisions taken post-Doklam. And this is also perhaps the preparedness on the Indian side to be prepared for drone warfare that we have seen, no contact warfare that we have seen as far as this conflict is concerned. They also say that making Asim Munir field marshal, as they have now after this loss, is just a face-saving gesture. So, it seems great when it works, but there is a lot of preparation that has gone in as far as India's air defense is concerned, for example. As far as India's own military preparation, the BrahMos has been used for the first time in active conflict, for example.
Absolutely, Shivani, and the made in India weapons have proved their worth in gold in the present conflict, not just in our offensive tactics, but even in our air defense, which was able to negate every drone, every munition, every missile fired by Pakistan. Everything was brought down. In fact, the Prime Minister was at the Null Air Base, landed there, and was speaking in Bikaner yesterday, and saying that Pakistan did try to even attack the Null Air Base in Bikaner, but they couldn't even touch it. While across the border, not very far from there, is the Rahim Khan Air Base, which India has badly damaged, which is in the ICU, the Prime Minister said, and its opening date is not known to anybody. That is, I think, the impact of Indian strikes, and top defense sources telling us that, in fact, what happened on May 9th night and May 10th morning was a phenomenal success. When you strike 9 Pakistani air bases, smash their air defenses, that has shown the capability of India, and the casualty figure as high as 42 military personnel of Pakistan killed in those May 9, May 10 morning strikes by India on the air bases of Pakistan.
All right, Aman, I'll leave it at that. Thank you for joining us and bringing us us those updates. I want to go back across to our guests also who continue to be with us. Important updates coming in. But Lieutenant General Gautam Murthy, I was talking to you about the mindset of the Pakistani army. I mean, the mindset is also very clear with the fact that you don't really accept your dead. You have done this in the past where you haven't even taken your fallen soldiers back. You are refusing to give them a send-off that they would deserve as any part of any military, even after Operation Sindoor casualties. But, this hatred that is coming from the very top, that makes them akin to terrorists. Your comment on that?
Why are we very surprised hearing this, Shivani? You've seen Asim Munir himself. He's a Hafiz. He's one who's, like you rightly said, about religion. He knows the Quran by heart. But unfortunately, a man like him has taken the wrong lessons from the Quran. And about the DG ISPR, General Chaudhry, his father was a proscribed terrorist.
Yes.
He was a nuclear scientist, but he was known to be giving nuclear know-how to Al-Qaeda. And he was sanctioned by the United Nations. So, and he was appointed by General Asim Munir as DG ISPR. So you can see where both of them are coming from. And on his 18 November speech, when General Asim Munir addressed the Pakistanis of the global Pakistanis in Islamabad, and he harked about the two-nation theory and Kashmir being the jugular vein, that was a strong enough indication that they were up to something.
Yes.
And the Pakistan army being what they are, his minions under him took up the clue and performed that dastardly act in Pahalgam.
Do you feel this is a recent phenomena, or do you think this is the same phenomena only getting stronger since the 1970s in the Pakistani army?
You see, the Pakistani army is not very, it's not a monolithic structure. They go by what the chief says. You saw during General Bajwa's time, there was a semblance of peace, there was ceasefire. Of course, he would bat for his country. And the relevance of the Pakistan army is anti-India and is Kashmir. If there was no Kashmir dispute and if India was not an enemy, then what role does the Pakistani army have in the state? Today, they're controlling it.
Yeah.
Who made General Asim Munir a field marshal? He himself? Let's have no doubts about that.
Yeah. No, it's actually a tragedy that this keeps happening in Pakistan. Nobody has been ever able to complete a term, a democratically elected term in Pakistan.
Never.
That's the story of Pakistan. Complete contrast. But Prabhu Dayal, I want to come to you because it seems that water is going to be the focus for Pakistan now. The military conflict, at least for now, is behind us. Unless they try any misadventure, India is making it very clear that we're not going to shy away from using our military options. But this Indus Water Treaty issue, it seems this is what they're going to use to rile up their own population and use to justify action against India. That's very clear. And India has to be prepared.
Yes, you're absolutely right. India has to be prepared at all times when it comes to Pakistan. Now, the Indus Waters Treaty abeyance has sent across a very important message to Pakistan. And that is that all levers, whether they are geopolitical or geo-economic, are open to us when it comes to dealing with Pakistan. Now, the reason why the Pakistan Army spokesman and Hafiz Saeed are speaking the same language is not only because they are the same, they are terrorists. The Pakistan Army is the biggest terrorist outfit in the world. And all these smaller terrorist outfits like Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Hizbul Mujahideen have an umbilical relationship with the Pakistan Army because they have all been created by them. But the second important reason why they are speaking the same language is because they are both rattled. They are in a state of panic. Firstly, Operation Sindoor sent across a very strong message to both of them. And then secondly, the decision taken by India to put the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance has taken them off guard. They never expected it.
Yes.
And as I said, they are in a state of panic. They are rattled. Now, it is very, very important that we should explain to global opinion, and that is what we are doing. The decision to send the 7 parliamentary delegations is to explain a whole host of issues. Firstly, why we had to take certain measures like Operation Sindoor. And secondly, that the holding in abeyance of the Indus Waters Treaty is perfectly legal. It's an order.
Yeah.
However, as you said, there is a state of panic in Pakistan. In Sindh, in the province of Sindh, in the last few days, there have been huge riots in which the GS Sindh proponents have been taking resort to violence against the Pakistan army. You know, the Pakistan army has shepherded a project to divert as much of the Indus River waters to Punjab as possible. You know, they're building new canals. And the Sindhis feel that this will deplete their own water resources. So they're up in arms. And in fact, the house of the Home Minister of Sindh was burnt by these activists. So the Pakistan army is facing insurgency in Balochistan. It is facing insurgency in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And now in Sindh, the old GSN movement, which used to be an ongoing movement when I was posted in Pakistan in the early 1980s, that has revived.
Right.
And the case for revival has been the Indus Waters Treaty abeyance and the panic which exists within the Pakistan army.
Yes, but this is panic of a country that is known to fuel terror. They radicalize their public, they rabble-rouse in front of them, and then, you know, without sorting their own house in order, they're going to lay the blame on everybody else but themselves. Captain Alok Bansal, are we prepared for the fallout that may come as far as the abeyance of the Indus Water Treaty is concerned? Because I'm only asking this question not because I doubt our capability, but because, you know, Pakistan has used Kashmir as an issue to foment terror. Now it's going to use this as an issue to foment terror. We have to be prepared.
See, firstly, we should be very clear that as far as Pakistan is concerned, its existence is premised on fueling anti-India feeling. In fact, Pakistan tries to bridge the internal dissensions that exist within its society by fermenting an anti-India stance within its polity. Now, as far as Indus Water Treaty is concerned, we have kept it in abeyance. India has not said that we have abrogated it. We have no intention of doing so. India, as a mature country, has always abided by international laws. But Pakistan has actually not been doing that. Indus Water Treaty has a provision for renegotiating it. We have been wanting to renegotiate it in light of various technological developments that have taken place since 1960s. So today's hydroelectric power stations cannot be constructed according to the technology of 60s. And that's what we have been trying to say. Because what has happened in Bagalihar, which was actually ruled by the neutral expert at that point of time, was that today's hydroelectric power stations cannot be hostage to the technology of 60s. But since subsequently Pakistan has not agreed to negotiate, we have kept it in abeyance. And it is not that we are stopping that water. That water is eventually going to Pakistan because we don't really have any storage dams. We only have run-of-the-river projects as far as Western three rivers are concerned.
Yes.
Whatever projects we have made, be it the Tulbul Navigational Barrage or be it the hydroelectric power plants like Bagalihar 1, 2 or Kishan Ganga or the new ones which are being built like Rattle and Pakuldal, they only have limited pondage in accordance with the design of a run-of-the-river project is concerned. The only thing is we are not sharing the data with them because since we have kept the T3 in abeyance, we are not really stopping. We don't really at the moment have wherewithal. So as far as Pakistan is concerned, all these exhortations and all this fuming, it's just nothing but an attempt to divert the population's attention away from the difficulties that are existing in Pakistan. We've already seen that despite all these things, there have been serious attacks within Pakistan. We have seen attacks on school buses. We have seen attacks on infrastructure. So attacks continue, the differences continue. Ambassador Prabhu Dayal talked about the Sindhi protests, which had been called off because after the army and the polity said that these canals which were to be built in Punjab province to fertilize, to irrigate Cholistan desert have been put off for the temporarily. But these canals were nothing but the pet project of Asim Munir, who has actually been rewarded by being promoted to the rank of Field Marshal.
No, absolutely. Now, you know, this whole canard that Pakistan is trying to spread, obviously it is more for their domestic consumption, but I surely do hope that the international community is taking note of the kind of threats from nuclear bogies to terror to Kashmir to now Indus Waters Treaty that Pakistan is used to, and if they want to equate this country with India. But I also want to play out a couple of reactions that have come domestically from Pakistan, where slowly and steadily there is an acceptance of the damage caused by Pakistan. This was the same case that happened after Balakot, after the airstrikes and the surgical strikes. There is a response initially to deny it for a few days or weeks, and then slowly and steadily the realization or the comments start coming in. Listen to a couple of those.
किसी ने ये नहीं पूछा कि GHQ से 5 किलोमीटर चकलाला एयरबेस तक ये ड्रोन कैसे पहुंचा, ये धमाका कैसे हुआ. अपने इदारों को हम क्यों डिस्कस ना करें कि हमारे इदारे क्या कर रहे हैं. हमारे जो यहाँ पे फोर्सेस है बलूचिस्तान में, जिनको हमने इतने इख्तियारात दिए हैं, जो मुझे भी तलाशी कर सकता है, मेरे घर में भी बगैर पूछे घुस सकता है, हम उससे क्यों नहीं पूछते कि भाई आप क्या कर रहे हो वहाँ पे.
जो कुछ 9 मई को हुआ और जो कुछ उससे पहले इंडिया ने 6 और 7 मई की शाम को हमला करके किया, उसमें ज्यादा फर्क नहीं है, बल्कि शायद हमने ज्यादा, हमारी उस सियासी जमात ने ज्यादा नुकसान पहुंचाया पाकिस्तान को.
One of the senators is actually comparing the damage, Captain Vinod, to what their internal protesters have managed to do. So, but leaving that aside, it's actually shocking that as a country, as a collective conscience, the country continues to deny what happened. There are not enough voices from Pakistan who challenge their own army or government narrative, despite it being so factually incorrect. They accept it in bits and pieces at home, but never really as a country.
Yeah, absolutely. Shivani, see, since the time these narratives are coming out, I am trying to put my finger on what is wrong with this country, collectively. Collectively, I think, Shivani, it is a country which is 90% of its population are not getting education. I think that is the biggest problem, because of which these so-called educated, convent-educated people who become officers in the armed forces, because that is the first choice of, unlike here where people want to go to civil services, their first choice of career is to go to armed forces, because from there you get to become like Muni. So, how do you sell the children? By keeping the rest of the population uneducated or less educated, or wrongly, like you said, wrongly educated, sending them to madrasas, etc., where real education, let's face it, is not provided to them. So that, be that as it may, Shivani, coming back to just a 5-second point on us being the upper riparian state in the Indus Waters Treaty, it has always been disadvantaged India, always been, for decades. And every time we wanted to do something, quoting the original document of 60s, they come and, create foment trouble here. They may not use the water that we are pumping out. That is the worst part. Most of them must be, I'm sure, ending up in Arabian Sea, but they will do that, but they will not let us use it in our Jammu and Kashmir area. So, rightfully, we have taken it to, a point where we would renegotiate in a framework of, the advantage that upper riparian state should get.
Right.
But coming to this particular aspect of, there is, just give me 5 more seconds, Shivani. All king are men, all men are mortal. Therefore, all kings are mortal. So this is the logic. So you extend that logic to the Fauj of Pakistan. Fauj of
mortal or immortal aside, there are certainly mujahids. They would like to consider themselves that.
Are standing with all, Fauji standing with mujahideen makes their Fauj mujahideen themselves.
Absolutely.
It is very
That's
simple
what I'm saying.
logic,
Their mentality is that of a fidain and a mujahideen. And that's the problem. But maybe the country should wake up to how General Asim Munir has elevated himself to Field Marshal. But I'll leave it at that. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. Moving on, remember yesterday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also made a comment on Pakistan's weapons and how they were destroyed by India. The weapons Pakistan is so boastful of. Did he mean Pakistan's nuke weapons that they keep threatening us with? Difficult to say. But more and more experts do say that there was an Indian strike at close to the nuke facility in Kirana Hills, although India has officially denied this. This could also be seen as a message to supporters of Pakistan like Turkey and China, whose drones and air defense systems did not work at all against India. Listen in.
जो सिंदूर मिटाने निकले थे उन्हें मिट्टी में मिलाया है। जो हिंदुस्तान का लहू बहाते थे, जो हिंदुस्तान का लहू बहाते थे, आज कतरे कतरे का हिसाब चुकाया है। जो अपने हथियारों पर घमंड करते थे, जो अपने हथियारों पर घमंड करते थे, आज वो मलबे के ढेर में दबे हुए हैं।
MEA also on Thursday, for the first time, directly named Turkey and China as allies of Pakistan, who must do more to control Pak-sponsored terror. MEA said our relationships are based on mutual trust and sensitivity, effectively telling these countries supporting Pakistan on Kashmir is going to be detrimental to relations with India.
You know, we expect Turkey to strongly urge Pakistan to end its support to cross-border terrorism and take credible and verifiable action against the terror ecosystem that it has harbored for decades now. And relations, as you know, are built on the basis of sensitivities to each other's concerns. Our national security advisor, he had a telephone conversation with his counterpart, the foreign minister and the special representative on boundary issue, Mr. Wang Yi. During this conversation, our national security advisor conveyed clearly India's resolute stance on cross-border terrorism emanating from Pakistan, and just to underline that the Chinese side is well aware that mutual trust, mutual sensitivity and mutual respect forms or remains the basis of India-China relations.
Well, speaking of the Pahalgam attack and the subsequent attention on Pakistan allies, Turkey and China, they have faced the heat. But one ally that has nearly slipped under the radar is Azerbaijan. While Turkey has been the center of attention, the Azerbaijan response also merits greater focus, and here's why. A statement from Azerbaijan's Foreign Affairs Ministry condemned India's military strikes against Pakistan conducted in response to the April 22 terror attack. I quote, "We condemn the military attacks on the Islamic Republic of Pakistan which have resulted in the deaths and injuries of several civilians. But this country ignored the killing of 26 innocents in Pahalgam." The statement further read that Azerbaijan stands in solidarity with the people of Pakistan but completely forgot how Hindus were segregated, rounded up and shot in front of their families, their wives and children by Pak-sponsored terrorists. The statement says Azerbaijan extends condolences to the families of the innocent Pakistani victims, but Azerbaijan could not even condemn a terror attack because it is its friend Pakistan that backs these terror groups against India. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about what is Azerbaijan as a country. It declared its independence from the Soviet Union on August 30, 1991, shortly before the official dissolution of the USSR. Azerbaijan operates under a unitary semi-presidential system. This means it has a central government, but also incorporates elements of both a presidential and a parliamentary system. It's a Muslim-majority country, majority of the adherents being that from the Shia branch. Azerbaijan is widely known for a deteriorating human rights record, with international organizations like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch expressing serious concerns. These concerns primarily revolve around freedom of expression, association and peaceful assembly, as well as targeting of human rights defenders and journalists. It's a popular budget-friendly tourist spot, and therefore a lot of Indians have also been traveling to Azerbaijan and Baku. I'll tell you more about the tourism industry in just a bit, but Armenia and Azerbaijan are currently in an active conflict, and it is Armenia's alliance with India that has also emerged as a key element in this situation. Why does this Middle Eastern country support Pakistan? No prizes for guessing really, but let me break them down. Pakistan has consistently supported Azerbaijan in its conflict with Armenia over Nagorno-Karabakh. In return, Azerbaijan supports Pakistan's stance on Kashmir. Another reason is simple, it's Islamic solidarity. Both countries are members of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, which fosters solidarity amongst Muslim-majority nations. And this part is of larger geopolitical strategy or grouping as well. Therefore, both Turkey and Azerbaijan do this. They back Pakistan terror over India because it's their geopolitical strategy. The bonhomie isn't really new, it's one that dates back decades. Azerbaijan is attached to Pakistan because Pakistan was one of the first countries to recognize Azerbaijan as an independent nation after the disintegration of the former Soviet Union and the creation of the new independent republics. Pakistan was one of the first nations to establish diplomatic ties with Azerbaijan. In 2010 and 2011, Azerbaijan donated $1 million and then $2 million respectively for flood relief in Pakistan. Their bilateral relationship has become more robust and meaningful in the last 5 years, notably after Pakistan extended unflinching support to Azerbaijan during this Nagorno-Karabakh war in 2020. Azerbaijan credits Turkey and Pakistan for their victory against Armenia. Parallelly, India's support to Armenia, as I mentioned, has irked this country. A lane has been named after Azerbaijani poet Nizami Ganjavi in the university town of Peshawar in June 2021, and multiple MOUs have been signed in 2023 between the universities of these two countries. Azerbaijan's open and unconditional support for Pakistan in its proxy war has brought into focus India's dealings with this country. When it comes to trade, India exported goods worth $54.1 million to Azerbaijan between January and March in 2023. Main products were rice, which account for 80% of total import of rice in Azerbaijan. Pakistan, on the other hand, only sends goods worth $20.6 million in an entire year. Main products exported were potatoes and liquid pumps. Similarly, when it comes to imports, Azerbaijan sold goods worth $316.2 million to India in the first quarter of 2023, and crude oil continued to be Azerbaijan's main export. Pakistan, the volume is just $8.2 million in the entire year of 2023. So, possibly it is time for New Delhi to rethink its dealing with Baku, and why not? India is the third largest destination for Azerbaijan's crude oil. India is the fourth largest source for inbound tourists for Azerbaijan after Russia, Turkey and Iran. Till 2023, more than 1,25,000 Indian tourists had visited Azerbaijan, nearly double the number of arrivals in 2022. Direct flights between Delhi and Baku have increased to 10 per week. The fallout of this stance against India has been simple. Indians are standing up and taking notice and rearranging their plans accordingly, like in the case of Turkey. There has been a 40% decline in visa applications for Azerbaijan, 30% cancellations in Ease My Trip bookings, and a 31% surge in alternate destinations popularity. Maybe it is time for India to also focus on Azerbaijan, not just Turkey and China. But shifting focus back home, while India is leading this fight against terror, politics is continuing to occupy center stage. Why are some within the country so unnerved about supporting the government of the day? Is it because of politics or is there something deeper? Joining me now is editor of Tughlaq magazine, S. Gurumurthy, noted political commentator. Mr. Gurumurthy, I thank you for your time. We're talking at a time when opposition MPs are visiting various countries, and most of the opposition has supported the government wholeheartedly. But there's a discordant note only from a section of the Congress party, namely from Rahul Gandhi and publicly from Jairam Ramesh as well. How do you read the attack by them against the government, including even calling S. Jaishankar a traitor?
Actually, I see it as a problem within the Congress as to how to approach national affairs. The MPs who have joined the government delegation will be talking about the government stand and about how Pakistan has been tormenting us through terror, not since yesterday, and we have been increasing our thrust against terror. In 2016 we sent our army, in 2019 we sent our air force across the border, but now we have moved to another more civilized way of attacking them without crossing the border. All these things will be explained by the very persons, MPs belonging to the Congress party, and how we have now made our anti-terror doctrine very clear and explicit. On the one side, the Congress MPs will be explaining this to all the foreign countries they are visiting as part of the government delegation, as part of the national policy. But if the Congress leadership is taking a different position, not only a different position, a ridiculously different position, it is they who have to explain. If they had boycotted the foreign delegation effort altogether, then Congress will stand at least as one party, whether it is right or not. The Congress is divided into two.
Yeah. But what do you think is making the Congress party so nervous about standing together with the government? This whole standing with the government only lasted a couple of weeks or maybe a little bit more. Is this a confusion in how to handle domestic versus international posturing?
You see, they have been driven by a sense of hate against Narendra Modi. It is hate against Narendra Modi which is confusing the Congress leadership, and particularly Rahul Gandhi, who has been repeatedly overwhelmed by the electoral defeats he has been facing. He doesn't have the tenacity to face, nor does the Congress have the organizational ability or the durability to face adverse situations. For example, the BJP got reduced to just 2 seats in 1984. But the BJP fought back. It fought back on political issues, cultural issues. But it never took a stand against the country. For example, when Narasimha Rao wanted Atal Bihari Vajpayee to go to United Nations and talk about the government stance, and he went, he was the leader of the opposition. See, it has always been our culture that so far as external issues are concerned, particularly about China and Pakistan, we have always spoken as one nation, one voice, one polity. But unfortunately, after Rahul Gandhi tasted defeat in 2014 and particularly in 2019 again, he began talking in such language and using such terminology, not only against the Prime Minister but also against the BJP, and went to the extent of saying that the Hindu terror is more dangerous than Islamic terror. This kind of, the narrative is not born out of any logic or assessment. It is born out of hate. Once hatred possesses you, then logic leaves you. That is the issue that the Congress is facing today.
Now, one of the questions that Congress is asking is what has been US's role in mediating this ceasefire? The government, of course, has clarified on that several times. The second is that after Pahalgam attack and after Operation Sindoor, global powers have ended up equating India and Pakistan has been successful to a certain extent in internationalizing the Kashmir issue. Do you feel it's fair that the opposition or Congress is asking questions at least on these two fronts?
You see, so far as the first one is concerned, that Trump himself wobbled on what he said first.
Yes.
Which means there is obviously a communication gap within the US system from what the government has said. That when US, of course, US is always concerned about this nuclear issue. It was in 1999 and 2008 and then 2019. Bill Clinton spoke about it and he wrote about it also, if I remember right, in his book, that once the nuke word comes, then US gets interested. That is the way Pakistan has been getting third-party intervention into the affairs between India and Pakistan. But this time they failed miserably, because when US spoke to us, it is very clear, we told them, let Pakistan speak to us. It is very clear from the chronology. Then the Pakistan DGMO called and he could not reach. Afterwards, the Pakistan embassy intervened and said the DGMO is trying to reach. Why the DGMO should be trying to reach us if Trump is bringing about the ceasefire? So, there is absolutely some confusion or misinformation or Trump trying to take some extra credit. And I don't mind Trump taking credit. But when the facts are against, Actually, our opposition should be asking why Trump is taking, in the national interest, if they are speaking, they should say Trump is taking unnecessary credit in the matter in which Pakistan and India dealt with each other. The facts are clear. These are provable facts. But to say that the Prime Minister should talk, they only want a verbal clash between the Prime Minister and Trump, where the Prime Minister has maintained an absolute dignity, allowing the facts to speak and not himself. I think this is part of the overall diplomacy, because we have to deal with America and we have to deal with Trump. By Trump claiming that I did it contrary to facts, that doesn't mean America is putting pressure on us. You are inferring America is putting pressure on us only to make the Prime Minister talk, and it is completely undiplomatic and completely inconsistent with the geopolitical strategy of India to enter into a verbal clash with the American President. American President speaks, I mean, he has spoken like this on many occasions. He has also spoken that the Prime Minister is one of the best persons in the world, and he is a killer and he is a great negotiator. And so Trump speaks in his own language. That doesn't mean the Prime Minister of India should also speak in the same language. The Prime Minister has maintained absolute dignity and he has let the facts speak. He has made it very clear in the first address to the nation that it is a matter between India and Pakistan. Pakistan asked for ceasefire. We also assessed. Another thing I tell you,
yes,
this war had continued, it would have been a war without an end game. Every war must have an end game. The end game was over on the first day for us. The Pakistan started the war, and so we carried on the war. We gave a reply, and we gave a very sound reply. Then Pakistan came for peace. There is no other alternative except to accept the peace offer after having called the nuclear bluff. So our end game was two. One, that we delivered what we wanted on the first day. The end game was over for us. The second end game came when we said, when they thought about nuclear movements and spoke about nuclear, what I can say, it can erupt into a nuclear war to get the whole world interested. He said, go ahead. We called that bluff. So our end game was first to finish the terrorist camp, next to call the nuclear bluff. Afterwards, what is there to carry on the war for? There is no end game. So we accepted. That is the right thing to do. So far as the other aspect is concerned, internationalization, let them say so. It is only a matter. The Prime Minister said very clearly, we are going to talk only about the POK. We are not going to talk about anything else. You draw the balance sheet. What has Pakistan got and what has India got? Leave aside the global leaders' pronouncements. Pakistan lost water, which it had as a matter of right. And now it has to negotiate, and it is actually requesting for water. And Pakistan has admitted that it is in cahoots with the terror. Its own army people standing in the funeral. And Pakistan has defined India's strategic position regarding terror and how we will deal with it. And it has gradually increased from ground attack to air attack, and now non-contact war. Non-contact war is a very, very important effort which the Prime Minister took from 2015 onwards, that we will not cross the border, we will hit, and we can hit the whole of Pakistan. We have proved it. These are all great takeaways. The nation should be talking about these things.
No, you're right. Many feel the significance of Operation Sindoor will only be understood in days and weeks to come, possibly even years. What really has India managed to achieve, both as a deterrent but also as a forward policy against Pakistan? S. Gurumurthy, I do thank you for joining us for the meantime. Always a pleasure to hear your views. On that note, time for me to take your leave. The right stand is coming up on the other side.
Network 18 is now the clear leader in digital media, with 55% more users on native platforms and social media than Times Internet. Network 18, the undisputed leader of news networks, way ahead of the times.
From the United States, this is with regards to Donald Trump issuing a new threat to Apple, as President Trump has now said that Apple should face a minimum of 25% tariffs on iPhones made outside the United States. And clearly that's a direct threat to Apple's manufacturing plans in India, as we all know. And Donald Trump now coming up with a fresh threat of slapping 25% tariffs as far as iPhones made outside the US are concerned. Pallavi Ghosh joins me with more inputs on that news story. Pallavi, take us through what this could mean for Apple's plans in India.
Well, this would be certainly seen as a bit of a setback, because the entire idea of opening Apple plants over here is that you would get state-of-the-art iPhones which are manufactured in India, which their production has already begun, and which obviously, one, it also goes and shows the confidence of multinational companies into India and investing over here and opening shop over here. And second, there was a belief that it would also mean that products would become much cheaper. Now, recently when Donald Trump had told Tim Cook that you cannot open Apple plants in India, the government sources, Commerce Ministry sources, had also pointed out to say that politicians often don't dictate to the businessmen, and businessmen don't really need to listen to them. And India was very confident that, Tim Cook would not change his mind. Now, this latest comment coming in from the American president will certainly be seen as a setback. We'll have to wait to see if any structured response comes in from the government. But essentially what it would mean is that if you and I want to buy a phone which is manufactured over here in India, it is going to end up being much more expensive, which is going to be seen as the end of this investment.
So, Pallavi, what does this mean in the current, trade scenario where, remember, Apple is positioning India as an alternative to China, and we know how Donald Trump is currently threatened by China's manufacturing. But what does that mean for India, and does that also mean that one is now looking at higher iPhone rates? All right, we seem to have lost Pallavi, but as we were highlighting, Apple is, of course, positioning India as an alternative manufacturing base, and Donald Trump's tariffs on China have already raised supply chain concerns and fears of iPhone prices rising higher. And Pallavi is back with us. Let me take that with her. Pallavi, as we were saying, that Apple is one company that's positioning India as an alternative manufacturing base to China. What does that now mean in the overall calculus, the trade calculus? Does that mean that Donald Trump is also equating India with China?
You know what happened is that many of the Apple plants from China were shutting shop, and they were shifting the base into India or looking at India as an alternative market. And obviously, we were very comfortable of this. A lot of as the Indian conditions are concerned, and we were obviously very upbeat about it. But now, when you're looking at a situation where, despite the fact that our Commerce Minister is over there, he's expected to come back. There are backroom negotiations. The bilateral trade talks are taking place, and now you have 25%, which is a staggering amount of tariff which is being imposed. India would obviously want to negotiate that. I'm still awaiting some kind of a structured reaction to come in from the Commerce Ministry. But it's very clear that for the American president, when it comes to doing business, China and India, to a very great extent, are put on the same plane. However, sources over here have been maintaining that tariff on China has been much, much higher, and India, in fact, has been much more of a beneficiary as far as America's trade tariff policy.
And that's true, because India sees this as a strength. And remember, Apple and India go back many years ago now. And Apple has invested billions of dollars in India. And could this now mean another setback apart from the tariffs for India, which is currently in the interim negotiations for that bilateral trade agreement?
But I think when Apple had first opened shop over here, it also, as I said, it's working out to be much cheaper. For Indians, Apple manufactured in India obviously would have worked out to be much, much cheaper, which is why there was a lot of enthusiasm over it. And there have been figures which have been put out by the Finance Ministry. We also showed a surge in sales, and especially those iPhones being manufactured right over here in India. As I said, Akansha, it's also reflected a deep confidence in India that we had the capability, the credibility, and the manpower talent to manufacture the highest standards of iPhones being manufactured by Apple. This is a setback because obviously, it also means that the iPhones will become much, much more expensive. Right. 25% is not a small amount.
This is News 18 Network. India's India's largest news network.
From the United States, this is with regards to Donald Trump issuing a new threat to Apple, as President Trump has now said that Apple should face a minimum of 25% tariffs on iPhones made outside the United States. And clearly that's a direct threat to Apple's manufacturing plans in India, as we all know. And Donald Trump now coming up with a fresh threat of slapping 25% tariffs as far as iPhones made outside the US are concerned. Pallavi Ghosh joins me with more inputs on that news story. Pallavi, take us through what this could mean for Apple's plans in India.
Well, this would be certainly seen as a bit of a setback, because the entire idea of opening Apple plants over here is that you would get state-of-the-art iPhones which are manufactured in India, which their production has already begun, and which obviously, one, it also goes and shows the confidence of multinational companies into India and investing over here and opening shop over here. And second, there was a belief that it would also mean that products would become much cheaper. Now, recently when Donald Trump had told Tim Cook that you cannot open Apple plants in India, the government sources, Commerce Ministry sources, had also pointed out to say that politicians often don't dictate to the businessmen, and businessmen don't really need to listen to them. And India was very confident that, Tim Cook would not change his mind. Now, this latest comment coming in from the American president will certainly be seen as a setback. We'll have to wait to see if any structured response comes in from the government. But essentially what it would mean is that if you and I want to buy a phone which is manufactured over here in India, it is going to end up being much more expensive, which is going to be seen as the end of this investment.
So, Pallavi, what does this mean in the current, trade scenario where, remember, Apple is positioning India as an alternative to China, and we know how Donald Trump is currently threatened by China's manufacturing. But what does that mean for India, and does that also mean that one is now looking at higher iPhone rates? All right, we seem to have lost Pallavi, but as we were highlighting, Apple is, of course, positioning India as an alternative manufacturing base, and Donald Trump's tariffs on China have already raised supply chain concerns and fears of iPhone prices rising higher. And Pallavi is back with us. Let me take that with her. Pallavi, as we were saying, that Apple is one company that's positioning India as an alternative manufacturing base to China. What does that now mean in the overall calculus, the trade calculus? Does that mean that Donald Trump is also equating India with China?
You know what happened is that many of the Apple plants from China were shutting shop, and they were shifting the base into India or looking at India as an alternative market. And obviously, we are very comfortable of this. As the Indian conditions are concerned, and we were obviously very upbeat about it. But now, when you're looking at a situation where, despite the fact that our Commerce Minister is over there, he's expected to come back. There are backroom negotiations. The bilateral trade talks are taking place, and now you have 25%, which is a staggering amount of tariff which is being imposed. India would obviously want to negotiate that. I'm still awaiting some kind of a structured reaction to come in from the Commerce Ministry. But it's very clear that for the American president, when it comes to doing business, China and India, to a very great extent, are put on the same plane. However, sources over here have been maintaining that tariff on China has been much, much higher, and India, in fact, has been much more of a beneficiary.
Good evening. You're watching The Right Stand with me, Poonam Burde. The dust is settling after Operation Sindoor. Pakistan is fully coming to terms with the damage that's done to them. A price that they've had to pay for backing terror groups and allowing these terror groups to flourish on Pakistani soil for decades together. Indian delegations are taking that very